Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, your destination to hear stories of how businesses grow and scale. I'm Robert Brill, CEO of BrillMedia.co and the host of this podcast. Now, let's jump right into this week's interview. Merel. Sorry, give me just a moment here. How you doing, Merel? Great to see you today.
Great to see you too, Robert. So glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. While we do this introduction, I want to introduce everyone to our guest today. Please welcome Merel Kriegsman, women's wealth advocate, CEO and founder of Merel Kriegsman Media. Merel teaches women how to practice the fine art of living simply while making millions. She created her own financial independence while breaking out of a cycle of debt and financial insecurity that had plagued her family for generations. As we start here, you're from Saskatchewan, Canada, I believe. And tell us a little bit about how you started teaching financial independence and how you broke out of a scarcity mindset. That's a big and powerful thing. Like there's a lot to unpack there.
There is. And, honestly, Robert, I love to joke that I went from riches to rags to riches. I actually come from, family that's like pretty well off, like upper middle class. I'd say my dad was able to have like a 6-figure salary, but it's really, the financial dependence and sort of like the ache of unfulfilled potential that comes with that was really something that the women in my family were struggling with, right? So I grew up and grew into being a young woman that just didn't know how to turn, my skills and my gifts into money. So in my early 20s, I had a big aha moment when I was tallying up all the money I'd ever made in my life, and I didn't get beyond maybe $7,000 or $8,000 after a 6-7 year career as a operatic singer, and that just to me was so devastating because I was pregnant at that time and realizing that, oh my goodness, this is not just me and my inability. It's also, I look at my mother and I look at my grandmother and it's all the same. And I do not want to pass this on. So there was a real moment of no return for me where I realized that I wanted something different for myself and for, my daughter. I have 3 little girls now. We just keep having little girls.
So you have 3 little girls. So how long ago was this when you had this revelation for you?
I would say this is like six years ago or so. And at that time, I was literally pregnant and scrubbing toilets because despite the fact that I was really talented as a singer and I was singing from, stages in Vatican City and being broadcasted to millions across the globe, the money was just not there. As happens a lot, right, to people in the arts. So I was scrubbing toilets, cleaning houses, babysitting other people's kids just to make ends meet and not go further into debt. And that's when things changed. That's when I made my decision.
And so tell us a little bit about the decision-making process and what ultimately came out of that.
So I decided that I would set anything aside that was standing between me and wealth, and I would really pursue, I decided to bite into the subject of money like a freaking terrier and not let go. So I like to describe it. So I started reading every single book that, my husband had gone through bankruptcy before I met him. So he had a very I say that sort of a journey when it comes to money and solvency and stuff like that. So there were a lot of millionaire mindset, millionaire, books with millionaire in the title in our house that he brought sort of into our household when we got together. So I started with those. I started, even decluttering our life, which is something that, might sound a little sort of what does that have to do with financial independence and stuff like that? But it really helped us to live within our values and actually, take anything away that was sort of, in the way of us really focusing on that money goal. And I took a business course. I literally did anything I had to do to, first of all, get out of debt, right? So that's where the toilet cleaning came in. And then later on, we started like renting out one of our rooms on Airbnb. I stopped singing, as in like I still sung, but I stopped singing professionally. I was like, this is in the way of me actually making a financial breakthrough. So I said, like, no more. I'm not going to show up for your, church service in this famous church, and you get to pay me $50, and I go actually further into debt because I
You're
needed to
doing
buy
it for
the music, and
you're doing it for the exposure. Hey, come on, Sirius or XM, and you'll get paid in exposure.
Yeah, well, they often joke artists die of exposure, right? I was just not available for that anymore. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you've created over the last few years, and what this actually looks like, and how you're helping women like build out of the challenges that maybe you face and other women have faced.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, like here's what happened, Robert. So, first it was all about like just getting to a place where I could, basically buy whatever I wanted. And then once I got there, once my business started doing 7 figures a year, I all of a sudden realized, like, what is wealth worth when, we're basically putting the future generations in such jeopardy, right? Like when you think of the climate crisis and overconsumption. And so as I started making more money, I started to realize that I wanted to live a simple life, and not further harm the planet and harm, because of that humanity on the planet. And I had a lot of like, deep sort of moments with myself where it's like, who do I want to be with this wealth? So our lifestyle right now is actually like we live on an acreage. We have 160 acres in rural Saskatchewan part of that we rent out to organic, like regenerative farmer. Don't know if you've seen Kiss the Ground, which talks about how we farm can actually greatly influence temperatures on planet Earth, cool the planet down. So we're investigating that. We've planted a food forest to sort of see trees grow up as our children grow up. We spend a lot of time outside, and then except when I'm on calls with my business mentorship groups, which I run, which is a couple times a week, and we dive really deep. And the way that I teach women how to make lots of money is really around high ticket selling.
So tell us about that. For folks who aren't familiar, tell us about, what's interesting about you and folks in this industry. There's a lot of like terms and language that I think as marketers we're familiar with.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm in the high ticket selling business. I characterize myself more as an ad man, a media buying guy or whatnot.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about high ticket selling. What does it actually mean? And how does someone go? Tell us is there a low ticket selling? Tell us about that and how that all plays out. Because I imagine there are women out there who are in the decision making process looking for ways to help themselves. And how do they make those decisions?
Absolutely. So when you like look at your skill sets, right? Like there's probably a couple of things that you do really, really well that maybe you've even done, within a sort of like corporate setting or on somebody else's team. I'll just use myself as an example. So I was always good with words, and despite the fact that I'm from Holland, I'm actually not an English native speaker, but I was always like really, really good with language. I speak multiple languages, and I like realized that I was really, really good at sales too. So at one point I was like, okay, I'm going to put my shingle up as a copywriter. And it was extremely successful. I was working with, top influencers in the online industry, writing their sales pages and stuff like that. Now, at one point, when you put yourself out there and you start a business, it's very easy to get to a place where you're just basically creating a new kind of rat race, right? Where you have to serve so many clients. You don't have the money just yet to invest in Facebook ads. Like there's always so much buzz in the online space, especially around create your own course, market it online. But it's way more complex than it might seem to, somebody who enters that space, pretty like fresh, right? It's like you need a proven concept. You need, like I said, like money to pay for traffic to actually, because if you have a low ticket offer, that means you have to sell it to more people to actually get to your financial goals. And that's just a little bit, out of reach, if not highly risky, like very risky for somebody who's in the first few years of their business. So what I basically created is, like an inverted funnel, where, as most people in my industry, you're sort of going like, you start with the low ticket items and then you upsell people into more expensive things. I'm saying, like, cut out the inexpensive offers and just go straight for the more expensive offers, and position yourself really smartly, through credibility building and intimacy building with your audience online, so that they actually feel really safe investing with you. And then then for the first, in my opinion, like 3 to 5 years of your business, you don't even have to do paid traffic. Paid traffic is an amplification tool. If you want to sell, like I said, courses, like, you need volume, you need so many bums and seats. It's just, it can be very hard for people who start in business, because, once you start recording an entire course or program and it doesn't sell, like, that's very, like, demotivating, right? It's very, yeah.
Can we talk about that for a moment? So
Yeah, sure.
Is your general offering and ethos the ability to identify a person, a woman who might be an executive, might have some innate skills, might have developed some skills over the course of a professional career, and when that woman is saying, okay, now I want financial independence for myself, she can work with you to build a series of offers that makes that drives wealth for them. Is that kind of the core thesis here?
Yeah. So most people that I work with are established, more established than people who are completely fresh and entering, sort of like, for the first time, this online marketplace.
So let's talk about established. What do you mean established? So like who's the right person who can jump right into this and be very successful with you?
So we have a mix. So it's either people who have been hanging around in the online space already for a while, and they have a bit of a following. Doesn't need to be a massive following, but let's say 500 people that follow them on Instagram. They have some people on their list, maybe, if they have started with a lead magnet and things like that. Which, again, I know is jargon. Like, just stop me if you're like, Merel.
So lead magnet, right? Something that people can download that is valuable.
Yeah.
For example, if you're doing home refinances, a guide that says, here are 10 things you should know about home refinances.
Exactly.
Or if you're doing math tutoring, 5 things you should know about the Common Core, or something like that, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we have those people, but we also have people who have been very successful in corporate or in brick and mortar businesses, and who are now, especially with COVID-19, are looking at transitioning to an online, sort of like more like consulting model, where they can get hired by companies to come in, be in a Zoom room, talk to some people, spread their wisdom, and get paid for that, right? That's really what this is about.
So this is basically for anyone who has professional knowledge, knows how to do something really well, but doesn't have the wherewithal to tie it all together as a product and a service and a brand. And you can help these women do that. And you specifically want to only work with women.
Yes. Yeah. So we often joke, like, within my communities, like, who are you out earning this year, right? Like, is it your exes or ex-business partner? Maybe you want to out earn your husband. Money has this great quality of being able to be used as sort of almost like a disruptor of oppressive systems, right? And that can be as intimate as I have clients, for example. I was talking to one woman who has been traveling around the US for her entire adult life, because her husband is 2 years older than she is, and he landed a more established job a few years before she did. And so every decision that they've made as a family is because of him making more money than she does. And when she starts out earning him, which is our goal for the next 6 months, what happens is that they need to start having conversations on a basis of equality. Right. And that is so incredibly powerful, because then it's not just for the woman and not just for, potentially daughters and sons to witness that, but also for the man in that relationship, right? Like when I look at my own husband, he he's going into investing and philanthropy, and he spends so much time with our kids, and he gets to be who he really wants to be, right? And it's not anymore from the sort of like archaic idea of like he is a man, so he has to make the money. When that falls away, you can really look at what do we actually want? What do you want? What do I want? How can we create something that actually works for us and is not just based on this is how things are supposed to go.
Awesome. Okay, so someone works with you. Someone works with you. They say, okay, I have these professional experiences. I know how to do something really well. I don't know how to package it all up. Tell us about, as much as you want to share publicly, tell us about like what types of things and practices you do to ensure that the women that you work with are successful. How long does it take? What kind of steps are there in this process?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there's a mix of sort of like really tangible like skills, right, that you need to learn around lead generation. So where do you find your clients? How do you call them in? Like I said, what I do a lot with my women is credibility building within their space, right? So everybody has a network, right? Like I always love to say that we probably have like all the clients we would ever want are sort of like sitting around us, maybe 1 or 2 handshakes away, right? So it's about how do you recognize those people? How do you call them in? Who do you need to be in order for those kinds of people to start following you, for them to start seeing you as like their daily fix, right? Like when you think of, for example, content creation, you need to ask yourself questions around like, what is it that I am embodying, for my specific crowd, and how can I create that irresistible pull towards me with the words that I use and the imagery and sort of like the overall brand. And then there's skills like sales skills. Some of you might already have good sales skills. If that's the truth for you, like good for you. Like it's very, very useful in this space where we work. But also a mindset component, quite honestly, right? It's like, do you, when I, for example, tell you like, okay, probably this offer should be this much, and this is how you upsell into a more expensive package, and this is how you do that. The question really becomes like, do you have your head screwed on in such a way that you're actually going to take action, right? And that's where we also, especially for women, encounter some really deep fears, right? I was talking about out earning your husband. Well, most women actually don't really even want to go there because it's scary to them, right? Like, what does that mean for my relationship? What do I even want to stay if there is no financial need anymore? Is it dangerous for me to be so visible, right? I'm especially thinking right now of like women of color, for example, right? Like minority groups. Is it safe for me to be like so incredibly visible online and in my opinions and my beliefs and what I stand for? How do I navigate that? How do I not feel constantly stressed or threatened, or so there's like those two sides. There's really like the tactical sort of like, what do I do? How do I do it? What do I call it? What do I price it at? How do I sell it? But then there's also the who do I need to become to call in this wealth and be comfortable with myself and the changes that comes with.
Mindset is ridiculous. Like it is, a big, I know. I know how important mindset is, right? It's one of the top 3 most unexpected things that I've experienced as I've grown my business. Is like, holy cow, I need to be cool with the roller coaster, with the as one of our clients says, a visceral life experience.
Oh my goodness, it's such a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And there's this book, I won't actually say the title because it has a cuss word in it. But it's basically like the subtle art of not giving a, and it talks about the fact that we, like our problems as entrepreneurs never go away. We're just upgrading them, right? Like this book is actually about like life in general, but I think of, you know, us as entrepreneurs. If it's not, how you say, if you're not in the tense place because you don't know where your next lead is coming from, you're in a tense place because one of your team members just skedaddled, you know, like it's ongoing. So you have to be like truth, absolutely be comfortable with a very visceral life experience. No kidding.
And you know, one of the things that like came like was manifested in my life that I recall thinking was like, holy cow, the risks, you take the same 3 to 5 different like sets of risks that exist in the business: financial risk, employee risk, all the variations there. And exactly to your point, it's like you when you're starting, when we started out, when we hired our very first employee, I was like, oh man, can we afford this employee? By the time that person left, who was an incredible person, we had to hire 4 employees. So now the risk, it's still the risk. Like, holy cow, can we afford 4 employees? And now can we afford 10 employees and more? The risk remains the same. The stakes just get higher. And that's how life is if you're doing it right. Like, you start out as a teenager, it's like, man, I just want to spend some time doing X. And by the time you're like in your 30s, it's like, now I've got to provide for a whole family.
Yeah.
Same risk, different level.
Different level, yeah. But there's always, you're always in this place of expansion, right? Like as an entrepreneur, you want to grow your business. In my opinion, like hitting a plateau is not an option for me. Like I feel that's the death of a business when you start plateauing. So you're always basically in growth mode, especially those first 5 years. And it's your ability to say like, okay, I know that there is like 20 things to fix, and it's all on me, because if I don't do it, then it doesn't get done, right? And despite all of that, say, okay, but now I'm going to park this here, and I'm going to lock it behind, you know, like a lock, and now I'm going to be with my family. Like that is going to be extremely, extremely important.
Right. You know, my wife says I have a really incredible ability to compartmentalize, which which is great, because sometimes when I don't compartmentalize, that's a big problem. So I like that. So I'm looking at your site, which is scrolling below, merelkriegsman.com. It talks about the Minimalist Millionaire Collective. Can you tell us, like, you know, it appears you have, you know, from February 15th to August 16th, 6 months of business mentorship, limited spots to 22 women. So that's interesting to me. So you have a max on how many women you can work with at a time. Tell us about what goes on during that process.
So it goes through, I mean, it depends. We actually have 3 pods. And depending on where you are in business, you get allocated to, you know, a specific pod with women that are going through the same sort of questions that you have, and quandaries and stuff like that. So we can really tailor the experience. What we do, let's say you are, you know, you have skills, you are interested in either, you know, filling a one-on-one roster with clients, consulting clients, let's say, or you are wanting to launch a group program. You know, we put you in your specific pods. There's like trainings on anything from sales, lead generation, credibility building, client dynamics. We were just chatting before we hopped on about me being a copywriter before I became a women's wealth advocate. Like knowing how to actually navigate tricky client situations is also extremely important. And then our focus is on really simplifying the business as much as possible. You know, where most business programs and stuff like that are saying, like, here are these 80 things that you need to do to build a successful business. We're actually looking at, like, here are 10. And that's
the essentials.
The essentials. What are you already doing well that you could do more of, and that you could do better and with more love, and then ditch the rest. Right?
Can you tell us about, for someone who, so are these for women looking to sell a course or a product? Is it a physical product or information?
No. So this is like for service providers, so people who have, like, let's say, you know, management skills. They want to become maybe an online business manager, or maybe they're a copywriter or a marketer, and they want to offer those services in the online space. We have had sleep coaches. We have had love and relationship coaches. So sort of like coaches and service providers experts, consultants, those sorts of people. And either they want to have, like enough one-on-one paying clients who pay like a nice meaty sum of money so that they don't have to serve 100 clients. And then we have the level where, women are selling a program. So it's not a pre-recorded course. It's actually a live program that they run with people that get to be in the room with them, learn from them, so they can, have a bigger impact and make way more money. So we have.
So when we talk, what are the key things that these people are like over the set of experiences and clients that you've had? Like, what are the top 5 key components to a successful information product?
Yeah, such a great question. So let's say that they want to launch a group program, right? That they run, they show up for it every week, they teach. What they need to have is above all, right? There's, of course, if you have sales skills, it's going to help. If you already have a bit of an online following, it's going to help. If you have sort of like, an insight into like how the online space work, all of those things are going to help. But, for example, we had a PR person join one of my programs, and she had never had like that online experience just yet. And so what we really noticed is that the fact that she was just like hungry and willing to do whatever it took and keep her head, like not get overly emotional about all of it and just take it in strides and sort of going like, okay, I have to be pragmatic here. Like, what am I looking at? How am I going to make this tweaks? That was really like super important. So to be honest, it all comes down to mindset more than anything. Those skill sets and audience and stuff, that's all great, but it can all be developed. What is hard to develop is sort of like your willingness to be, slightly uncomfortable, right? As you're putting yourself out there. Like, one of the things that we do is, helping women activate their network. So who do you already have around you who actually needs this, or who knows people that need this? That means that you have to do some outreach, right? It means that you have to learn how to nurture those relationships so that people actually want to send you referrals and trust you with their referrals. There's going to be moments where you're going to be like, oh, I don't really feel like this. Like, this feels really scary, right? And then that ability to say, but no, I want this enough. There's so much at stake here. And this was, something that I clearly had as well in my life, where I was pregnant and I was like, I don't want to pass this on to my kids, this like toxic money behavior where, so much of women's potential just never actually sees the sunlight, because for all kinds of reasons.
Because of circumstances, right? Because that's the way our world has been set up.
Yeah.
What do you ever encounter a client who doesn't want to be on camera? Like, is that possible to sell a successful information product without like putting your face out there?
It can be done. We've had maybe a handful of people, who just really stuck with their sort of like referral based model, which can totally be optimized, right? There's actually ways for you to get referrals consistently and not have them be sort of like showing up whenever. However, the conversations that I really have are around how can you, if you're not comfortable being online on camera, how can we get you to that place? Because it makes all the difference. Your ad guy, too, that, all platforms are favoring video content.
Yeah.
It's really the way to go, and it keeps growing. And platforms like Facebook are actually competing with platforms like YouTube for like the amount of video content. So, it's more of a question of, okay, so you're not quite comfortable with it right now. Why? What's standing in your way? Like, do you need to get better equipment? Do you need to fall in love with how you look on camera? Are you afraid to actually say what you think? Are you just needing to get through, a couple of times where you mumble and you stumble your way through it and you just delete the thing afterwards? Like, what are we actually looking at, right?
So tell us about when COVID hit. How did that affect your business? I imagine it probably improved your business considering what you do.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the last 10 months of your life and how the business fared then?
Well, the last, if I look at the last 11 months, I basically had a baby right before COVID hit. So, so that was interesting. So, my year has been like, literally, we feel we've put like 10 years in 1 year, Robert. Like, it was so intense.
Yeah.
The business was growing, right? Because more people were like, okay, now I need to get really like serious with my online business. Like, this is definitely something worth pursuing. So the business actually grew, but also, from a food security perspective, we were sort of thinking like, we want to go more off grid and we want to grow our own food and really become very serious about, being able to rely on just, local producers for our food and like our friends, and collaborate, and because we have that luxury because we're, in the country. So Keith, my husband, he literally planted an entire food forest. If you don't know what that means, like,
I don't know what that means.
like it involves like hundreds of plants and trees and stuff like that. So that was going on. The business was growing. I literally have done sales calls with like a baby on my boob. I kid you not. And so it was just like really intense. My mom also was going through cancer treatments in Holland, on the other side of the world, where I couldn't actually, hold her hand through this experience. So
yeah.
for us, and I think for so many families across the globe, this has just been a really intense year. So I'm definitely taking my, magnesium pills in the evening so that I can sleep a good night and not wake up in the morning going like, like, who needs me now? Like, team members, husband, kids. So that's sort of just, the life. But quite frankly, it has also made me a better business mentor because
Right.
it has made me look for more ways to simplify even further and to really help women create a business that's aligned with their values, because there's only so much of, many of us to go around, right? Like, as women that are maybe moms or caretakers of elderly parents, or, whatever is going on, maybe they are homeschooling, maybe whatever is going on, right? It's like, we need to only be spending our time and efforts on things that actually generate money, right? It's like, simplify in order to get extremely profitable is basically the only way that this is going to work for a lot of us.
What are some of the best practices or learnings, that you can share with our audience that are things that you share with your clients or that you've experienced yourself that have to do with growing a business, scaling a business, being more profitable? Like, talk about some of the learnings there.
Well, what I find is that, this is maybe a little bit more women specific, but there is such a fear among women around actually taking up the space that that you need to grow a successful business, right? So it's that, like, am I allowed to take up this much space, this much time with, this project, this business that I'm building? And then paired with, is it okay for me to ask for help, right? Like, those two things is something that a lot of people struggle with. So what I see in, for example, a lot of the women that I support in their businesses, is like me needing to remind them, hey, it's okay to get support. It's okay to even if it feels a little scary, to start hiring someone. Or it's okay to, and right now during COVID, it's really, really hard, right? Because we can't all have like a cleaning person coming over, or ask our, mother-in-laws to take care of the kids for an afternoon.
Right.
But being in a place where, you know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, hey, I'm falling apart a little bit today. Who can support me? To find that support, to be willing to receive that support and have that nurturing energy actually, be something you receive, right? Because it's not just asking for it, are you actually willing to receive it? And then also, like really engaging with this patriarchy induced, belief that we as women shouldn't take up space, right? Like, I am personally, I struggled with anorexia, food disorder, in my teens. I literally, like, physically was afraid to take up space. And it's something that is still like an underlying pattern that I see in so many women. You know, is it okay for me to spend this extra hour on my business when I know that my kids also want to snuggle? Is it, you know, like that balancing act, and just being able to also, when you get it wrong, because you're going to get it wrong, to forgive yourself. I like to joke, you know, crack open a can of instant forgiveness. It's like sparkly in there and like glittery, and you just pour it all over your head, and like instant forgiveness. Let's not like blame ourselves for getting it wrong, and just be able to move forward. So those are like extremely important things to keep in mind.
And if women want to work with you, how do people work with you? Tell us about the timing and anything else you want to share about how this is.
Yeah, for sure. So we are starting a next round of cohorts on the 15th of February. It's almost sold out already. So if you are interested, go to merelkriegsman.com, and it automatically like directs to the application page. Read through it, see if it clicks with you, it resonates. Then you book your call, and then you get to be on a chat with me, and we're just gonna find out if this is the right next move for you. In the meantime, definitely follow me in 2 places. One is Instagram. I have a very, very nice, I say it's feed full with like tips and strategies and mindset shifts for you to sort of like dive into. So it's simply like Merel Kriegsman on Instagram. I also have a free group on Facebook. It's called Create Your Money Vortex. And you're super welcome to come join that. I'm often live in there. We have a lot of like meaningful conversations about women and money, but also social justice and the environment, and just, you know, not just around making lots of money, but also like, who are we going to be with all that money? What is the purpose of you making so much money? How can you manage it and save it and spend it in ways that's actually not going to turn you into sort of like some kind of like amplified, you know, mass consumer, but rather, you know, have you being wealthy be a good thing for all of us. So that's what we focus on in there.
Awesome. And the next round, the next pod start February 15th?
Starts February 15th. We're selling like the final spots probably in the next week or two. So you want to hop over there, you want to book your call and speak with me as soon as you can.
Very cool. Merel Kriegsman, women's wealth advocate, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing your story with us.
Oh, you're so welcome. This was such a pleasure, Robert. Thank you. Thank you for having me.